late to the party, but I finally watched all of The Penguin. This is a show that I was incredibly excited to check out because I loved Matt Reeves The Batman, but unfortunately it dropped during a really tricky window of time for me where the first episode debuted while I was at Fantastic Fest, and it debuted literally on the first day, and the festival's 8 days long. I tried really hard to get access to the show early so I could watch it and post a review when the episode debuted. So you'd hear my thoughts on it, but I wasn't able to get access to it. And so I just kind of fell behind on the show all the way up until this week where I binge watched most of the season over the last couple of days, including until 3 a.m, trying to avoid the internet to avoid as many spoilers as possible. Nothing was actually spoiled, though I was able to piece together a pretty good idea some of the ways I was going to have my stomach gut punched multiple times during this finale. But I do apologize, I haven't had more coverage of it. It dropped during Fantastic Fest, and then I traveled to California a few weeks back. My wife had some travel, so it just wasn't something I was able to put at the top of my priority list. And then when I didn't cover it Sunday night, every other comment across all of my social media, my comment section, is asking when I'll be reviewing this show. And even as we go into this, I'm so short on time. This will probably be recorded in a single take, hence why even right now I'm talking a little bit longer than I normally would, because I'm not able to edit all this down because I'm just so short on time with everything that I'm trying to cover, everywhere that I need to be while still being a husband and a father at the same time. There's only one of me, and there's so many things that I want to be able to talk about. With all of that said, as for my overall general impressions of the show, and then I'll kind of get into more specifics and spoiler stuff. This first little section, no spoilers. The first few episodes I found to be a little bit underwhelming. They didn't fully hook me. I dug it. It wasn't like I think this is bad or I'm not even going to watch this. It was like, all right, I'm tracking with it, but it's not immediately hooking me as much as I would like it to. And I think I even said it, I only put out a short talking about the first episode. I think even part of the problem is that the inciting incident that launches the show is the Batman movie. So huge, gigantic things happen in that, with Falcone dying, the city being flooded takes place before the show starts. And so you're basically watching kind of the epilogue of that movie from Penguin's perspective for the first few episodes and seeing what they're trying to do. And so it didn't start with as much of a bang. It didn't hook me as much as I kind of hoped it would. And it really was episode 4 that absolutely won me over. As soon as we get Sophia's backstory and realize, oh, that's who she is. Oh, that's what happened to her. And that's what Oz, his involvement was. That's what he did. Oh, wow. Like, this is getting interesting. And it basically, in one episode, shifts kind of your whole perspective on the show to where you're kind of now rooting for her. She's kind of the protagonist for the entire back half of the show, or at least the person that you want to be victorious. You're no longer rooting for Oz. And as she goes down that path, you're also kind of watching the tragedy that is her life, not only because of her suffering, but because you're watching how someone that was not particularly evil does become a villain by the end of it. She's a villain that you're rooting for. She's getting revenge. But like, she's also very obviously a psycho killer that was created by everything that happened. And that's what makes it just kind of so compelling and interesting, where you go in for the Penguin, iconic Batman villain played by one of the great actors of the last 25 years. It's just like the fact that that's Colin Farrell behind all that makeup. It's not just the makeup, it's also just the little mannerisms, how he moves his mouth and everything. He's so good. We signed up for that. And the show makes us care about this other character more. It makes her more compelling. And it's not because he's not compelling, complex, and wonderfully performed. It's because they had this other character that ties into all this other stuff that's able to kind of find this nice spot to just kind of elevate everything. Today's video is brought to you by Factor. Just last week, we turned our clocks back for the fall. The days are shorter, and you can use your time more efficiently with Factor. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleanup off of your to-do list with Factor meals. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Factor delivers their meals right to your front door, and they are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. Whether you like routine or you like mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your box, like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies. I personally like to add the protein shake so I can start my day with some protein. Factor lets you do you. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well-balanced meals. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Head to factormeals.com/SeanChandler50 and use code SeanChandler50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code SeanChandler50 at factormeals.com/SeanChandler50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And the other thing you just have to talk about with the show just in general that makes it stand out in contrast to so many other projects that have come out recently, it allows a Batman villain to be a villain. The most obvious comparison is to the Sony Spider-Man-less universe, where all they do is take Spider-Man villains and make it so they're not actually bad. They're not actually bad guys. They're not really the villains. And you go, but they are. I mean, they're supposed to be. There's supposed to be more villain to it. And this is a show which starts with Penguin as a villain, maybe a kind of likable one. You're kind of rooting for him as an underdog. And by the end of it, you hate the guy. He's compelling your interest, like, oh yeah, this is cool. But you hate the guy because he's so bad and irredeemable. And I was actually talking to someone, wise fellow. His name is Sean, and I don't mean I'm talking to myself, but he's actually a marketing professor, and I've gotten a guest lecture in his class a couple times before. So he finished it, he just started messaging me. He started talking about, like, not since Breaking Bad has there been a character that's so irredeemable that is just, you hate them, but they're so compelling and interesting. And it just does a great job of allowing a villain to be a villain, but writing them in a way where they're so fascinating. They're so interesting. And even when they're not likable, they're magnetic. But they also, I think very wisely, put Sophia in there that kind of creates a counterbalance where you have someone that is being villainous, and increasingly so as the season goes along, but someone that you can actually root for. You pretty early on, you can't root for Oswald anymore because you just know he's such a liar that's just out for himself. But with her, you know she's down a path that's leading to a really almost certainly bad outcome, but you're still rooting for her. And we'll get into a little bit, like, it's great tragedy. So much of it is great tragedy on both of their tales, and the one that you're not really rooting for them, the one you are rooting for them, but both of them are on path of utter destruction, that in pursuit of one thing that they want, it's going to cost them what they actually care about. And then the other thing about it is a show that actually has teeth, that beyond just allowing bad guys to be bad guys and doesn't have to try and neuter them. I mean, it goes so dark in the last episode on multiple different levels, even in ways of, like, we're not in any way rooting for Oswald, but you feel bad for him. You're like, they make you care about someone that you despise at the same time because they're human and they're multifaceted. They have layers to them. So you care about the tragedy of it all. And like I said, they go somewhere that's just so bleak in the last episode they weren't afraid to do it. In an era where so many shows, I mean, I don't know why I'm beating around the bush, where you watch a bunch of Marvel shows and they go out of their way to make sometimes the bad guys not really the bad guys. Like, I mean, they're not really bad. And they do that sort of thing. They kind of take the teeth out of it. And you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a story that is meant to give an explanation for why Bucky would break Zemo out of prison because there's such a horrible threat out there. And in the course of the whole thing, the main villains only kill like 3 people. Something like that. Like, they do very little that's actually overtly villainous, but we have to break out a really bad guy in order to stop them. You know, it just lost its teeth. Here, the people we root for brutally kill people. The title character, it like horrifically kills people that in like ways that are so not only unjustified, they make you furious at just how unjust and sick and twisted it is. In particular, the finale. And you feel like you're living in a space that with really dark, evil things happening that require that the Batman would emerge. That would require that there's something, if they're going to be so bleak and evil, this is what the villain class is in this city, you need a dark knight to set things right. You need something else in this city to fix this story, this bleak, bleak world that allows these sorts of things to take place. So for me, like I said, it took a little while to get going. And maybe even some of that's why I had to binge so much of it. Like, I watched the episode 4, the Sophia backstory episode, Sunday night. And I think I just was behind on watching it, and I was trying to watch it with my wife, and I just, trying to, I guess she probably just wasn't as interested as I thought she might be, so it didn't end up happening. So I was like, I just got to watch it on my own. But the first 3 episodes just hadn't really hooked me enough to make me binge through it. And then the deadline of the end of the season to review it for you guys popped up, and I was like, okay, let me check this out. I watch episode 4, it's like, oh, there it is. That's the hook. That's the thing that I think was missing from episode 1. I don't think you didn't want to do this in episode 1. This worked because we didn't have it at the beginning. And you kind of had this journey of kind of following Oz and like, what's going on with Sophia? I don't know if I like her. And then you give the backstory. It reframes everything you know about her, everyone else, the dynamics that we're watching, as well as the objective that we want for the show, which is... It's when you do a really good reveal backstory episode that makes you go, oh, gotcha. I see where we're going with all of this. So that's what I think needed to happen. Once it happened, I was all on board with it. With all that said, those are my spoiler-free thoughts. And now let's talk about some spoilers. So with that episode 4, that's one of the big ones you kind of have to dive into, where you have a character that you're kind of suspect of, that's presented as potentially a serial killer. She spent time in Arkham. And then you do this episode where it's revealed that she discovers people, or is informed these people are being killed, probably a serial killer involved, and she becomes sympathetic towards, I don't think I like what I'm learning here, and starts kind of looking into it. Thus her father, because Oz rats her out, setting this stage 10 years earlier that Oz just has no loyalty to anyone besides his mother. Literally, anyone besides his own brothers doesn't care about this. Is just his mother is the only person that he's loyal to. No matter what she does, he's loyal to her. But everyone else is just kind of someone that might be in the way of him achieving his goals. They're just a stepping stone. And so he kind of liked her, thought she was kind of nice to him, but she's in the way. And that's his way to move up the ladder. And you watch what kind of happens to her, where it's not just that she's unjustly accused of something and is labeled by everyone a serial killer. It's that she's actively tortured for 6 months. And so, like, everything about it is so unjust. And by the end of the 6 months, of her being tortured and all this stuff happening to her, they get to the moment in time at the end of it where it's revealed that someone's kind of been acting friendly to her, clearly is one more person that's in on the routine. And they have her brutally murder this person in cold blood and then screams, "I told you I was innocent." And that is like just encapsulates the beauty of the tragedy of this character. That as she does commit a murder, brutal murder, thus becoming the exact thing she's been accused of, she screams, "I told you I was innocent." And all of this, like, they show her at the beginning and she's this very soft, normal person, apparently on a, all things considered, pretty good path for life. And because of her father's utter cruelty and the betrayal of everyone around her, they turn her into someone that at one point in time poisons the entire family. Another point in time sets a bomb that we don't know how many people exactly it killed, but kills a number of people. And then, of course, we see her smash a face in. They turned her into the killer. They turned her into the psycho that they lied, claiming that she was. And seeing that journey as the person that actually at her core isn't broken. Her wiring was not broken from her upbringing. Her wiring was broken by this sick, twisted family of power-hungry individuals. And the whole show is her doing something twisted, but her humanity pulling her back, contrasted with Oz, who, as the season goes along, it makes it clear to us his wiring is just broken. And he has been a psycho since he was a child, murdering his own brothers so he gets more of his mother's time, and perpetually lying about it to everyone, and being unable to even acknowledge it in any context. Like, he just can't admit that that is what he did, and just keeps going down this path that he makes friends with Vic. Sophia tries to work with him, and like he pretends to apologize. He does all of these things. He has all these moments where people show him grace, or there's humanity, someone pulls the best out of him. And despite all of these moments of potentially giving him an on-ramp to be the humane version of himself, the reality is he is just a monster. At his core, he is a monster. He's a terrible, sociopathic individual. And no amount of goodwill, friendship, family, forgiveness will ever fix him and pull him back. Whereas Sophia's good-natured. She's driven to be crazy and mad and does mass murder in this show. But every piece of humanity pulls her back a little bit. Like, all of these little moments make her question the path that she's on. And just that parallel just works so nicely in the show. And once it emerges that that's what we're really watching, this show is like, there we go. Oh, very cool. Very cool what you're doing here. And of course, all of this building towards the finale where Oz, who is obsessed with his mother, and it's finally revealed his mother hates him, plotted to kill him, says to him, "I hate you. I've always hate you." Like, just screams horrible things at him. True, but horrible if they were any. If that's your son, maybe they're not so horrible afterwards. Screams all this stuff at him, stabs him after "I hate you," stabs him, and then she collapses. And his first thought is, "Oh no, my mom's in danger." That's the utter baffling, strange, bizarre nature of Oz. Like, just this like utter devotion to his mother at the cost of everything else. Just brothers, like nothing else. It's all like a deception, whatever it is. This just twisted, sick obsession with his mother, especially in the final shots of what he's having his prostitute do. Just like so twisted, and defending and passionate about someone that despises him to the point of stabbing him, cannot stand him, and like regrets not murdering him, and he's still unfazed by any of this. And then, of course, the ultimate, the part at the end of it where you're like, where are we going with this? And you have this almost sentimental final little bit with Vic, where Vic's like, thanks for giving me a chance. Thanks so much. Like, you're like a family to me. And in this final couple episodes, I mean, all throughout the season, Vic has like come to his rescue and was trying to leave. And we see Vic turn into the worst version of himself, where he's literally a killer. And keeps going down the path and caring more and more about this person that is increasingly, at least from our perspective, clearly, well, not from reality's perspective, a sociopath, all leading up to the point in time where he's become the worst version of himself, put himself on the line, saved Oz, done everything to earn Oz's trust and make it clear, I'm here for you, I will save you, I've got your back. And then Oz, with his just literal bare hands, murders him. Oh, it's just like so brutal to like, so devastating to watch, because it's such a sweet moment of someone finding family in an unexpected place after losing everything because of the events of the Batman. And then the person that he just said, you're my family, just kills him because, well, I mean, yeah, family can be weakness though. And I got my goals. He's just so unfazed by it. And so that's the tragedy of all of these characters. And when you talk about tragedy, it's someone that's on a path, that there's those moments of where they're on top. And then they ignore the signs, or a character flaw just doesn't allow them to stop. Or there's that thing they won't let go of. And so they just kind of keep going in desperate effort to gain something, and in the process lose whatever they ultimately care about. So in the case of Vic, so early on, he knows he is attaching himself to someone dangerous. He buys a ticket, tells his lady friend, buy me a ticket, I'm going to go with you. And then he ultimately doesn't go and sets himself on the path of death. If someone else hadn't killed him, he was on the path that the person that he did all of this for, and went to such great proof of his loyalty. There's nothing that he could have done that would have saved himself from Oz. As soon as he chose not to leave with her, his fate was sealed, that he was going to die, and not terribly far off in the future. You look at Sophia, hers is a little bit more complex, because it is a little bit of the story of a rise, and there's like gaining power, but then she's also out for revenge, but she's also just trying to break free from all of this. And there's so many moments in the last couple episodes where she does get the upper hand. She can get out of there, but she can't get out of there until she's gotten Oz. She can't let go of the revenge. So it takes her to a place of desperation by the end of the last episode, where she goes to a group of people that are criminals, villains, and backstabbers. So he goes to backstabbers and says, hey, whoever gets this person for me gets all of this. But they're backstabbers. So the thing that makes it so she can grab him also sets the stage for her ultimate defeat. She trusted people that are not trustworthy because she was so blinded by rage. Like, she had the path out of there. She had the plane. She could get out of there and flee all of the chaos, start a new life like she wants to do anyway, but she couldn't let go. And that led to her ultimate downfall. And I was wondering if they would, I didn't think they would kill her off, because she's just too compelling that wherever they're going next, you want to leave that on the table. And so then they found the right one of, with the criminal case, she's back at Arkham, and you realize, like, what's the even darker fate for her? The darker fate is not that she is dead, because she doesn't like her life. Her life is miserable. Everyone around her has betrayed her. It's like she doesn't trust anyone. So she just wants a new life. She's going to start a new one. So if you take the one that she has, it's not actually that big of a loss for her, because she hasn't gained anything yet, the life that she wants yet. But if you throw her in Arkham, that is a fate worse than death for that character. And then I think even in the case of Oz, you're talking about someone that so wants to be accepted and cared for, loved, respected, and he finds someone that loves, cares, and respects him. views him as family, but his own sick ambition makes him kill that person. He's so twisted in his pursuit of this thing, this praise, while being unable to understand what actually earns it. Humanity. It's not just power and position and wealth. It's having true respect of people. So when he gets that from someone that is telling him, you made this city better, look what all the thing you did, like gives him a pep talk and everything, like actually believes in him. He's the person that is in a sense lifting him up to that getting the praise, the parade and everything. There's the one person that thinks that of him. But Oz is just so twisted, so sociopathic that he can't even process that right and responds entirely wrong to the one person giving him what he truly wants, or that could set him on the path to get that from more people. Literally kills him in cold blood. Oz, you sick, twisted individual. Now, final thought on here. All this talk, and there's very little Batman in here. It's kind of interesting the way that, like, as I was watching through it, I kept having to be like, oh yeah, this is in the Batman universe. I think maybe that's to a fault, or maybe that's what makes it good, that it didn't need Batman in it. Like, it just works on its own terms. But also to that extent of, like, it feels like we're going down a path over here that it felt more and more detached from the Batman as it went along. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to think about that, but it's interesting to me that, it feels like it's in a different universe, because you're following Penguin around, but your brain just adapts to the fact that he's a little bit odd looking, but you don't have people dressed up as bats and cats. You don't have the bat, the cat, and the penguin. You just have the Penguin. And the other ones are the ones that more, via costume, look more fantastical. And so it just so veers into the, Sopranos in the world of Gotham that I just think it needed to be a little bit more fantastical to remind you that we are tied to that. I don't know if you needed Batman, but I think you needed something that tied it. Anyway, let me know what you thought down below. Sorry I couldn't have more B-roll, all the normal stuff I do in here, but I just wanted to talk about it. I know a lot of people had a lot of questions what I thought about it. I thought I was going to talk for like 7 minutes as usual. Now I've almost gone 30 minutes. Let me know what you thought down below. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.